Hey there, and welcome back to Forever Single. My name's JC, and I'm the facilitator of this brand new video podcast. We go ahead and extrapolate the trauma, awkwardness, and comedy of Age of Aquarius' love life. So, whether you are single, taken, or in a polyamorous relationship with a Keebler elf, stay tuned for this incredible story. What would you kind of label this date, or even label the dater himself?
I am going to name this episode The Pungent Poet. Yeah. It's a no for me, dog, on that body odor.
Well, everyone, make sure to plug your nose and buckle up for this. Okay, we have to, of course, start with our exposition. Let's build this context.
All right.
Where did you meet the Pungent Poet?
So, I was desperate, and that led me to go onto Hinge. At this point, I have no idea what this is. It sounds terrible, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to download it, I'm going to try it, and we're going to go on some dates. So that's what I did.
So, just a quick question about Hinge. Was it very much like you're swiping through, you're like, wow, this is a plethora of attractive people? Or was it kind of like, oh, I am swiping through the casting of The Hills Have Eyes 3?
It was more like The Hills Have Eyes 3. It was like where you start to extend your radius at a point.
Oh.
Yeah, so against my better judgment, I matched with the Pungent Poet.
Okay, so what were your initial thoughts about the photos? Describe the photos that you saw.
They were questionable at best. His angles, he had the MySpace angles, like the MySpace movie.
Up here?
Yeah. His eyes were not exactly going in the right direction. One eye was on me, one eye was elsewhere.
And finally, he's of course going to ask you out. So let's talk about the first meeting, the in-person meeting.
I meet him at Dave & Buster's, and I lay my eyes on the factual situation in front of me, and it is interesting, to say the least.
All right, you need to paint by nightmares right now and describe this to us.
This guy looked like the love child of Gandalf the Grey and a ginger Cabbage Patch doll. He was walking like a penguin. His posture was subpar at best. But again, desperation. I was already there.
Ooh, what happens next?
Yeah, so we just order our drink and everything's going fine until he decides to drop on me that he is divorced.
On the first date?
He should have mentioned this before we got on the date. But yeah, so he said he was divorced. It was one of those situations where he was dating this person for a really long time, probably like 6-7 years. They got married and were divorced within, I would say, 6 months to a year. And so he had been divorced for about a year at that point. And I was a little surprised. I'm like, that's kind of fast, but hey, I guess he was moving on, so here we are.
What happens?
Yeah, so we talked about our interests and stuff. I told him what I did. He was talking about his poetry and how he writes all the time and, all the music that he likes. And it was a pretty good conversation. And then he's like, let's go play some games. So I'm like, hell yeah, that's what we're here for. I love that active, fun date where you get to do something that's a little competitive. It's not just sitting there eating dinner. You get to know the person, see if there's a vibe there.
And you're a live wire, and you are, even though you probably don't admit it as much, super competitive as well.
Am I?
Yeah, definitely. You go out to play the games, right?
Mm-hmm. Connect 4.
Oh, this is going to be a battle.
Yeah. So he goes to help, situate everything. So he has to put our drinks down, put our coats down. He took everything off, and that's when I catch a whiff of this man's B.O.
Hold up.
Yeah.
He's on a date and he has a peculiar smell?
Yes. And if you guys watch Saturday Night Cocktails, which you should, it's on my channel if you have it.
Link in the description box?
Exactly. I've gone over this before. This is my #1 deal breaker pet peeve is BO. Okay, so once I catch that, it's done, homie. There's no coming back from that one for me.
I feel like the only individuals that do not wear deodorant are children of the age of 12 and below.
Yeah, it was a lot going on. This man smelled like sour sponges.
Wait, hang on.
Yeah.
What do you mean sour sponges?
Like someone took a household cleaning sponge, did their chores, did not wring it out adequately, and left it out to sour in the night. And voila! Oh my God. And he was sweating on top of it. So it had that little bit of a musty undertone in addition to the sour sponges, which were coming from an, undisclosed location. It could have been his hair. It could have been his pits. I'm dying.
I'm dying. You were dying on the date too because you had to smell this. Now that we know why his name is the Pungent Poet, what happened, at the end of the date, after the date?
So I have a strict no lip locking rule, so none of that. And also the odor, I was just trying to get out of there. So I just got through the rest of the date, got home, all was relatively well. Yeah.
So after the date, I know that you probably had to first use coffee beans and then to eradicate the deplorable, horrendous, vile smell that was just accosting your nostrils. Mm-hmm. But he was still a nice guy.
Yeah, he was still a nice guy. Again, open-minded mixed with desperation. And I just kept texting him. That was my mistake. This guy, he communicated in poem.
So we know the pungent part. Now we're jumping to the poetry part.
Yeah, it's like a constant slam poetry, audition instead of just saying, "Hey, how's your day going?" So on that, most people hate the person who texts every single day and says good morning or morning. It's like, do you have anything else to add to the conversation? After dealing with this guy, I would do anything for a good morning text. It's like, be careful what you wish for, because I got way more than I expected from this guy.
So you wake up in the morning, and how many stanzas were you greeted to?
Quite a lot to handle, and I am a beast, so I have receipts, and we're going to go into it now. So I'm going to give you the honors of being Walt Whitman, and I will be the victim. So I'm going to put up the screenshot right here, and I need you guys to notice a very, very important fact. This is the first thing in the morning. It is 8 a.m., and this is what he's hitting me with.
Morning dew, accumulating on the petals of flowers. Rays of light, warm, fluttering butterfly wings as they drink in the early hours. Gentle breeze that carries the bird's song whistling towards our window. Tapping on the glass to awake the joy that's in our soul, hiding in the shadow. Embrace the warmth, that is the light, and dance today to the tones that sound right. Oh!
I had to hit him with just an emoji. I had nothing to possibly say. Like, what do you say to that?
Does he think that you're gonna go, oh, swoon, a poem?
You shouldn't have.
What? Well, unless you're texting Maya Angelou, I don't think that you should be receiving poems via text message. You're receiving an influx of these poems. Why aren't you just kicking him to the curb now? That is bizarre.
Well, at this point in my life, aside from desperation, I had just come out of a situationship.
Hashtag situationship.
It was horrible. So I was super obsessed with this guy, so in love with him. So if you guys have ever been in a situationship, sometimes the best remedy is to get yourself into another one. So I was like, you know what? Date. I want him to see me going out. I want him to see other guys buying me flowers for Valentine's Day. I'm gonna put it on blast, try to make him jealous.
Might get him back, who knows?
I knew it was wrong, but it was actually Valentine's Day, and I could not let my situationship man see me slipping. Like, I am not the one sitting at home on Valentine's Day. Oh, God. So we go to this barbecue place. It's really crowded. We're on the wait list. So, we bide our time a little bit. And we had one of those beepers, so I had to go off, and then we'll go seat ourselves. So apparently it went off, and he just starts booking it to the restaurant, completely leaving me in the dust, which is another pet peeve of mine. I hate when a guy walks in front of me. You can walk on the side of me. I could be the one to have to slow down for you to catch up, but do not have me trailing behind you while we're walking together in public.
She hates that.
I want you to just like zoom in on my shit.
Zoom in on my shit. Hates it. Oh, he was doing that and I saw the door close behind him and I'm barely catching up to him and I'm like, okay. All right, this is gonna be bad.
What goes down?
We're in the middle of this packed restaurant and I'm just being awful. I will admit it. I won't give anything to the conversation. I'm not being nice. Like, I'm finding ways to start an argument about every little point he's making because I'm just so irritated by everything about the man. I'm so turned off. I'm like, I'm just not into this, right? He orders a whole platter. He orders the whole restaurant, including ribs. He starts eating these ribs, and at the end of the dinner, he licks all of his fingers. Sorry, not sorry. Like, come on. You're gonna sit there and lick your fingers on a date in public?
I just want to say that this reminds me of the scene from White Chicks, where Terry Crews takes, out one of the Wayans brothers, orders everything looking messy, spitting food everywhere. Ooh.
In the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna have to kiss this guy. He's gonna go for the kiss. Like, I can tell he thinks he's charming because he paid for the dinner. We get outside and he's just like, oh, what do you want to do now? I'm like,
Now? Now?
Completely oblivious, by the way. So I'm like, oh, I'm tired. So it was perfect because I was going on a trip for my birthday. So I was like, I have packing to do. I have a lot to do tonight. Like, I'm about to go to my trip. So I kind of need to go home. Sorry. I tell him this and he's fine with it, but I do not escape the lip lock. Gave him a really quick peck. Try not to think about it. Try to immediately black it out for my own, mental health in the future, and got my ass home.
And that night, when he got home, he said, "Dear diary, just a peck down in my deck. Oh, I'm gonna listen to Beck."
But yeah, so I got home, I went on my trip, and I remembered that I didn't text him for a couple days. I knew that was super obvious, like what was about to happen. So I'm like, I'm not basic. I gotta just drop the news. So I texted him and I said, hey, it's not working out. Like, I'm not interested. And all he said was, I admire your candor.
What's the moral of the story? What did you get from it?
Ladies and gentlemen, the age of the Aquarius took an L on this entire situation. I walked right into it. And the moral of the story is, do not try to make your situationship jealous by taking a guy out who smells like sour sponges and repeatedly dating said individual, because it's gonna backfire every time.
And backfire it did, especially in your nostrils. Well, that's it for this episode of Forever Single. My name is JC, always here with the beautiful, immaculate, and wonderful
Age of the Aquarius, baby. And we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.